items. This session will be recorded. If you are uncomfortable with it being recorded, we ask that you drop out of the session and watch the recording after it's published. There will be a Q&A at the end of the session, so if you have any questions, we ask that you write them in the chat. Lastly, please make sure to stay muted throughout this session. Now, with those items out of the way, I would like to welcome Marina Cosmos, We4Food Program Lead at GIZ, to begin the session with some opening remark. Marina, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate this possibility to open the conference. For many of us, today's topic means one of the greatest challenges of our time, and is a central concern of the Global Agenda 2030. Years ago, when I was working in a regional project at the highlands in the Andes, the local communities never had a thought of the meaning and importance of water. For them, it was clear, same as the Hungarian scientist Albert György, that said that water is life matter, matrix, mother, and medium, and there is no life without water. This describes the different areas and spheres where water plays a critical role. Water for food, for energy, for ecosystem, for industrial protection, for climate, and last but not least, for people. How to bring all these uses together, address and balance the trade-offs will be part of this session. As highlighted in the recent UNFCCC COP27 report, the year 2022 has been a year of extreme weathers, food shortages, fossil fuels price spikes, and rising costs of all living in the countries, with increased geopolitical tensions further stopping the crisis. Projections of 2023 further underline the necessity to act. This year, approximately 345 million people worldwide will become acutely food insecure or will be at the highest risk. This development indicates 200 million people compared to the pre-COVID-19 pandemic levels and more than double the number in 2020. Climate change impacts reinforce all these crises and increase the already existing poverty, food insecurity, and economic disruptions across the world. A rising frequency of droughts, floods, and storms lead to more water stress, affecting agricultural livestock and fisheries productivity. Shifting weather and rainfall patterns are more extreme ever, are devastating evidence of both rapidly changing climate and an urgent need for solutions. It's not a surprise that this threat endangers, especially the life of those living in vulnerable contexts, undermining also the development of the global south. To achieve food security, there is an urgent need for transformation of agriculture and food production to achieve climate resilient agricultural food systems, making them more efficient, diminishing the use of resources, and addressing the conversion of ecosystem structures, elements, and ecosystem services, including the sustainable functionality of the water cycle to secure water availability. Please allow me to introduce to Water and Energy for Food, also referred as We4Food, which is a multi-donor international initiative that is commissioned and financed by 6 different donors, namely the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, the European Union, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation, the Swedish International Development Corporation, and the US Agency for International Cooperation. With a total funding of more than 88 million US dollars, We4Food focuses its efforts on environmental sustainable innovations aiming to achieve energy and water efficiency in the agricultural and food sector. Water is the most crucial input for agriculture food systems. We4Food innovations promote the efficient and sustainable use of water for increased production along the food value chain to achieve food security. Though the promotion of sustainable use and water management through different innovations, the initiative follows to enhance climate resilience, preserve biodiversity, increase food availability, preserve healthy ecosystems, and improve livelihoods for all, and especially the most vulnerable vulnerable and marginal communities contributing to the UN water agenda. We4Food itself, as a multi-donor initiative, represents the spirit of partnerships while actively enhancing cross-sectoral and multi-level partnership in the water, energy, food nexus in Africa and Asia to boost integrated solution of local SMEs at regional financial institutions. The spirit of partnership is also highly lived through today's session, and I'm more than happy to welcome the donors of the initiative, the representative of the International Water Management Institute and the Climate Resilient Food Systems Alliance. Together with them, the initiative has scaled water efficient and climate-smart solutions for water and food security, supporting dialogue on efficient water management and sustainable irrigations at the global agenda. I'm looking forward for the valuable inputs during this session and move forward on the implementation of the water and food agenda. I wish you all an insightful, enjoyable, and productive session. Thank you.
Thank you, Marina, for highlighting the water security, food security, and climate change threats faced by the smallholder farmers and how We4Food is working with partners to scale water, energy, food innovations, as well as contribute to the UN water agenda. Now, to further explore why sustainable water management requires a water, energy, food nexus approach, we'll hear from We4Food donors joining us today. We have Etienne Coyette, who is leading on, just a second, who is a policy officer for climate change and food systems and land governance at the EU International Partnerships. We have also Karen Roloff, head of the water team at the Inclusive Green Growth Department at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Government of the Netherlands. Astrid Veteras leads the section for food and agriculture. Maria van Perlecom, head of the unit for global cooperation on environment, and Ku McMahon, USAID team lead for the water and energy for food grand challenge. There's a couple of questions to cover, so let's get started. There's so many different pieces of the water, energy, food nexus that needs to be taken into consideration when talking about improving smallholder farmers' livelihood and creating sustainable water management. Etienne, what other concerns should program developers and implementers think about when taking a water, energy, food nexus approach?
Thank you, Rami. Thank you, Marina, and hello to everyone. I'm very happy to be here representing the European Union for this important conference during the Water Summit. About the issues that we would need to take into account when we work around these nexus. Well, first of all, the nexus approach is already a very nice and important step forward, but the issue of ecosystem services or biodiversity in general is actually one of the cornerstone for water resources, for food, but also for many energy resources. And they are also the very basis of the agriculture production and of food systems globally. And they are also the basis for health and nutrition. We have to take note that more than half of agricultural production directly depends on these ecosystems and their services. And they are actually valued today at over 180 billion US dollars, which highlights the magnitude and the importance of these ecosystem services. Unfortunately, food systems today are not sustainable. We all know that they can have negative impacts on the environment, on the natural resources, and they can cause also disbalances and malfunctioning of some of these ecosystem services. Just to mention, decrease in soil fertility, land degradation, scarcity in the water resources. We've seen as well deforestation or contamination in the environment. And last but not least, they are also responsible food system of between 19 to 29%, depending on the estimation of the global greenhouse gases emissions. So I think we all agree that we need to move towards a more sustainable food system, and we all have to support this transition. At EU level, a few years ago, we adopted the EU Green Deal with several underlying and accompanying strategies, one of which is the Farm to Fork, which focus on sustainable food system. We have another strategy dealing with biodiversity and ecosystems, which is the focus of the little point I would like to make right now. And we try to promote through this set of policies and strategies the better integration of all these different dimensions, and in particular of the ecosystem services and biodiversity, into the approach towards food system. Of course, these policies focus on the EU first, but they have clearly a global or an external dimension. And that is why they include also an external component through which we try to support our partner countries in building this transition towards more sustainable food system. Different initiatives, of course, and the Water Energy for Food initiative is one of these we support now for a number of years. We are happy to see that we have been able to support over 135 different innovations in the agriculture sector. This has contributed to save over 1.7 billion water consumption that is spared. We've seen the water scarcity problem, so this is not to underestimate. And then over 50 million CO2 emissions, greenhouse gases, that were spared through these efforts. There is another element that I would like to highlight as well on this Water Energy for Food initiative. It's the idea of the partnership and their importance. As Marina said, we are 6 donors together at the table to support this initiative. We are working together, funding the initiative in different regional components, but we also exchange a lot. So we learn from the results of the initiative, but we also learn from each other when we exchange through the regular meetings we have. Main central team supporting climate, energy, and water smart innovations. This kind of integrated approaches and cross-silo allows us precisely to break the barriers that we too often see with these silo approaches, to foster the dialogue between the different partners and stakeholders, so not only among the donors, but also among all the stakeholders in the food system area. So the producers, the end consumers, the stakeholders, the processing units, etc. So at EU level, we place a great importance in this partnership. We also work with what we label as Team Europe initiatives, and we try to contribute to build this kind of partnership in other area, and then probably as well trying to move beyond the strictly water, energy, food nexus. And then another importance in these partnerships is the fact that we are able, through this initiative, to reach out to small and micro enterprises. This is a contribution to the democratization of access to resources, to finance, to technical support, to knowledge by the exchange of best practices. And then, as we are discussing water in this summit, important as well to focus on the on-farm water resources management, continue to spare the water resources and manage them as to the best that we can. So just to finalize this short statement, building on the successful experience with the Water Energy for Food, this is a call to all donors and all participants here, all stakeholders in general, to continue working together and building stronger partnership and stronger integrated approaches to address these issues altogether. I will stop here. Thank you very much. Over to you, Rami.
Excellent point about including biodiversity protection within the water, energy, food nexus and the importance of partnership when doing so. It's not enough to just mitigate the negative impact of agriculture production on the environment and biodiversity. expand on why sustainable water management is important for climate resilience, adaptation, and mitigation. Maybe Karen? Karen, we cannot hear you. Karen, you're on mute. We would need you to unmute if you don't mind. You're still on mute. Let me unmute you from here. You are still on mute.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Thank you so much, Karen.
Oh, my apologies. Good morning and good afternoon to you all. It's a pleasure to join you for this session. It's very clear that the climate crisis is also a water crisis. Roughly half of the world's population is experiencing severe water scarcity for at least part of the year. These numbers are expected to increase, exacerbated by climate change, economic development, urbanization, and population growth. As we continue to focus on meeting the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly SDG 6, we need different and innovative approaches, which acknowledge the competing demands of the water, energy, and food sectors. This is stressed by the Global Commission on the Economics of Water in their report, Turning the Tide. The Commission is redefining the way we understand, value, and govern water for the common good. All water users in all sectors need to become good water stewards. One of their calls to action is directed at today's governance architecture for water, which is not fit for purpose, and to its fragmented, siloed approach and underinvestment. We for Food could bring inspiration to the Water, Food and Energy Challenge, based on its cooperation with a large group of partners. In the past, we looked at energy, water and food production in isolation. This has led to inefficiencies. For example, farmers who irrigate water with pumps often consume a significant amount of energy. And using solar pumps brings the risk that too much water is pumped, as running costs are low. In order to sustainably produce food, it is crucial that water is not over-extracted. To tackle the water, energy, food nexus challenge and mitigate climate change while sustainably using water, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Government of the Netherlands has supported the Water and Energy for Food Grand Challenge. The program works with 137 innovators in East Africa, West Africa, the Middle East and North Africa, South and Southeast Asia, and Southern and Central Africa, where we provide them with the assistance, grants, investment facilitation, as well as legal, regulatory, and policy support. So far, SMEs have helped almost 2 million end users, save more than 6 billion liters of water, 680 million of kilowatt hours of energy, and 585,000 tons of CO2 emissions, while producing 4.4 million tons of food. Also, 65% of the innovators monitor water and biodiversity. This contributes to protect the natural resource base on which farmers depend. Looking at these results, it is easy to see why we need a water, energy, food nexus approach. By focusing only on water, we don't take the use of expensive diesel fuel nor cheap solar pumping into account, including the opportunity to contribute to climate adaptation and mitigation, as well as increase farmers' incomes. By only focusing on energy, we overlook the importance of improved water management, and efficiency, and the risk of over-extraction. Together, the efficient use of both resources helps smallholder farmers grow more food in a sustainable way and increase income. As I mentioned before, stakeholders in all sectors need to become good water stewards. Experience has learned that there is a real challenge of overusing water with the risk of depleting groundwater as a result of solar irrigation technologies. To prevent this from happening, businesses need a better understanding of water basins in their regions and of groundwater and surface water availability. Farmers need more information on water management and how the way they use water affects water availability for all. And the scientific and technology community must work with farmers and businesses to develop the tools and resources that support improved water management. By helping private sector companies and farmers learn about the water availability in their countries and regions, it empowers them to become leaders within their community and further locally led development. To support this work, Water and Energy for Food is pleased to announce its new partnership with the International Water Management Institute. Through this partnership, We for Food and IMI will develop water basin maps for the Zambezi River Basin. This will assist SMEs to better understand their impact, and it will educate farmers about sustainable water management. We for Food will also partner with other organizations to sustainably manage water in Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. One of the Netherlands' commitments to the Water Action Agenda is that water is recognized as an essential resource in food systems, which has to be managed sustainably. A side event on this topic will be organized by the Wageningen University together with public, non-governmental, private and research partners. IMI will be one of the research partners present, and we trust that IMI's work in partnership with We for Food will help to put water high on the agenda in the food and agriculture sector. Thank you for attending this session, and I hope it will contribute to an inspiring and successful conference that will change the way we understand, value, and govern water. As the Secretary General mentioned during the opening, this conference is more than only about water. Let's turn the tide. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, for sharing the news of Water and Energy for Food's commitment to better understand water availability and improve sustainable usage. I'm also looking forward to learning more about the other side event. Speaking of news, Astrid, as a representative of Norad, who is the newest donor partner of the Water and Energy for Food, I hear that you have something to announce in relation to We for Food and its work. Would you like to share the news?
Sure. Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting us to this event. Norad is the last partner to join this partnership, and we are so pleased to be able to enter into a partnership that is so well established and where we have seen that there are a lot of good results. So it feels like coming to a table that has already been set, and it's a good opportunity for us. For us, the entry point is that food security is at the center of Norwegian development policies. And key to our food security work is to improve productivity, including reduced production loss for small-scale food producers. And it's also key to work with well-functioning local value chains and markets that strengthen the position of small-scale food producers in the value chain and accommodate small and medium-sized enterprises. So we have been on the lookout for partners to include in this work and to strengthen and upscale our work. When we learned about this opportunity, which really fits all the requirements that we have been looking for, and where we see that there is a possibility to contribute. We see that innovation is key to our ambitions, access to financial services for SMEs, and also access to technology is key. So we are very pleased to join Water and Energy for Food, and we are committing about $1.5 million US to the program. And for the Norwegian government, a focus is on sub-Saharan Africa. So we are particularly supporting the Southern and Central Africa Regional Innovation Hub, where we hope that we will be able to direct the vision of the program by supporting continued engagement of the private sector to elevate local businesses, sharing lessons learned on increased access to renewable energy, and strengthening the capacity of water, energy, food nexus stakeholders. So we really believe in the Water and Energy for Food mission and its ability to improve the livelihoods of the world poorest by giving them access to innovative products and services. We are very pleased to support the Southern and Central Africa Regional Innovation Hub. And we really look forward to following this. I don't have a lot of results to to include in this speech yet, but we very much look forward to learning more and are pleased to be welcomed in this family. Thank you.
Well, welcome to the Water and Energy for Food team. We're very excited to have you on board. And thank you for highlighting the importance of improving innovation access for low-income farmers, especially in Southern and Central Africa. I would actually like to continue focusing on that for a second. Women and base of the pyramid smallholder farmers often lack access to the resources and innovation that would help them improve water management and food security. Pia from Sida maybe could share why it is important to focus on them when leveraging a water energy food nexus approach. Pia, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you so much, Rami. Yes, I'm jumping in here instead of Maria, my manager, who unfortunately cannot hear anything. So I'm jumping in her place here. And I have a cold, so please excuse my voice, but I'll do my best here to share our points here. So yeah, as my colleagues have highlighted, there's a critical need for sustainable water use and management as we work together to mitigate the effects of climate change, biodiversity loss, increase food security, and improve smallholder farmers' livelihoods. However, as we look at the high-level picture, we must not forget those who produce our food and are facing the most severe impacts of climate change, women and those at the base of the pyramid. So while supplying almost half of all agricultural labor in low and middle income countries, women's agriculture productivity is on average 20 to 30% lower than male farmers due to lack of access to inputs and also to financing. Additionally, women who lack access to the same knowledge and training as men need guidance on how to use less water and switch to new technologies that promote water efficiency. So if companies do not improve access to more sustainable and water-efficient technologies needed by women, almost 1/2 of the population will continue to poorly manage their water usage and have inefficiencies within their agriculture production. The lack of water, climate change, and biodiversity loss also puts pressure on those at the base of the pyramid. And currently, the BOP population make up to 70% of the agricultural workforce. They grapple with climate change, food and water insecurity, and rising energy costs, which affect their ability to irrigate their crops, of course. And while technologies exist that could help them move away from diesel fuels and improve their water management, those technologies can often be extremely expensive, having high upfront cost or requiring the ability to access financing resources. And as a partner of the Water and Energy for Food initiative, it's been Sida's focus to ensure that the technologies, business models, and innovative solutions supported by the program integrate a strong focus on women and BOP end users. So far, innovations and innovators have impacted nearly 1 million end users, of which 8,034,000 are at the base of the pyramid, and more than 350,000 are women. They have achieved these results by adjusting their innovations to meet women's needs, by creating end-user financing products, reducing financial barriers, and leveraging sales and marketing strategies that put women and the poor at the center of their business models. Additionally, the Water and Energy for Food regional innovation hubs are helping innovators, empowering women as business leaders, owners, and employees, with almost half of all the supported innovations being now owned or led by women. One of these examples is Sonful Energy, who has worked with the Southern and Central Africa Regional Innovation Hub to secure financing from a genderless investor. They have recently announced their first woman chief officer of operations, who has joined the company's board and received shares of the business. Due to the elevation of women empowerment within Sonful's business, they have been able to access genderless investment. And this is only one of the many examples of women and BOP empowerment that have happened through Water and Energy for Food support of SMEs. And to continue this work and focus on women and BOP communities, Sida has committed an additional 1.5 million USDs to the Water and Energy for Food Fund. This funding will help the Middle East and Northern Africa Regional Innovation Hub continue promoting sustainable water management solutions in one of the most water-scarce regions in the world. So I'll end there. Thank you, Rami. Over to you.
Thank you, Pia, for highlighting the importance of working with women and BOP population. Now, to round out the session, we have talked a lot about the different focus area of We4Food, from sustainable water management to empowering women. Who, if you would like to share why We4Food scales innovations to impact these different targets?
Good afternoon, everyone, and greetings from Harare, Zimbabwe, where I was able to meet with Zoneful and PowerLive and many of our other innovators that are women-owned and women-led at the heart of the Nexus. As you've heard each of the speakers talk about, the goal of Water and Energy for Food is to help scale these innovations within the food energy, and the water food energy nexus to positively impact smallholder farmers, particularly women at the base of the pyramid. When vulnerable communities have access to innovative technologies, they're able to produce more food while using less water and energy. For example, just last week, I was in South Africa talking to a female smallholder farmer and her family who are hiring young people from colleges to pay attention to pests, to use soil moisture sensors, and significantly reduce the amount of water they're using on farm. This also helps these organizations contribute to climate mitigation by reducing the use of fossil fuels in agriculture and helping farmers adapt to climate change. Through this support, these small and medium enterprises are able to adapt and grow their local business environments while providing these farmers at the base of the pyramid with better access to water efficient technologies. So you may be asking, well, why are we so focused on small, medium enterprises at the Nexus? We find that the private sector contributes more than just farmers' technologies. They also contribute to improving farmers' understanding of sustainable water management and the effect that these different technologies can have on water availability. Through training and capacity building with farmers, including new mobile apps that use artificial intelligence, the private sector is helping make sure that farmers plant and irrigate at the right times, water only when the crops need it, rather than all of the time, which substantially reduces the amount of water in agriculture. From our work with SMEs, we know that there's a desire to invest in these different types of technologies and scale their innovations. However, they just need more support to make it possible. Since the program launched in 2020, these SMEs have mobilized more than $40 million in private sector debt and equity investment. However, we need to take some other lessons learned, not just from our sector, but from other sectors. From the off-grid energy space, we've learned that aggregating groups like farmers can help businesses achieve economies of scale. Also, businesses must be agile and able to be flexible and pivot when dealing with supply chain issues, demand issues, as we saw during the COVID crisis. For solar irrigation, companies must examine their supplier options when looking to import sustainable solar irrigation parts from other countries, as there could be issues related to labor or how certain materials like lithium batteries can be transported towards water. And as such, through the partnerships between the donors that are sitting here, research institutions that have been mentioned and others that we're working with, local governments and the private sector, we should be able to sustainably grow more food with less water and more efficient energy use. That is why today the We4F donor partners have committed to contributing a combined $7.5 million for sustainable water management and the development of new tools and resources through the International Water Management Institute and other partners. We thank our partners at the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Government of the Netherlands, Norway through Norad, and Sida representing Sweden for their contribution to the program and continued support of water management and inefficiency innovations. We look forward to seeing the results of this commitment grow and grow over the coming years. Thanks, Rami, and back to you.
Thank you, Ku, for highlighting the role that businesses and industry can play in achieving sustainable water management and helping achieve food security by leveraging partnerships and private sector engagement. Now, we want to showcase how We4Food and partners contribute to the Water Action Agenda. To get us started, we will learn from the partnership between IMI and We4Food. So with that, we start moving to the slides and learning from Yumi.
Thanks, Rami. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Naga. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Let me share my screen. Okay. Yeah. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and happy World Water Week or World Water Day. So the topic of my presentation is basically showcasing a pitch for water assessment for sustainable scaling of innovations. Earlier this week on Monday, IPCC press conference Climate Change 2023 Census Report was released, and one of the key findings from the press conference that struck me is basically that the climate change impacts are undermining our livelihoods, damaging our global economy, and threatening food and water security. And these impacts are going to intensify, and the water sector water and food sector is on top of the on the list. So we have already heard from the Water Energy for Food group speakers that there's a great challenge ahead of us, basically meeting the food gap by 2020. And to put things into perspective, if we are producing a 1 silo of food right now, we need at least 4 silos of food by 2050. And this is all because of the increase in the population and the increase in the food and water demands. And increase in these demands also translates into increase in the water withdrawals. And then the challenge here is that, with the climate change, meeting these goals is even becoming increasingly difficult. So the path forward for this is Water Energy for Food is already making moves in the right direction, basically focusing on the innovations leading to increase water security and resilient food systems. So we have already heard, from several speakers, all the efforts that are being made to sustainably manage the resources and scale innovations. So when it comes to scaling innovations, we are trying to maximize the benefit of producing more food with less water and less resources, and that we have heard from Ku and Karen and other speakers. But the challenge ahead is basically how can we do this sustainably? How can we scale these innovations? How can we make more investments in agriculture and water sectors so that we do not overexploit the resources? So the question ahead of us is basically to produce data-driven sustainable scaling solutions. When it comes to data-driven sustainable scaling solution, one of the challenge that is ahead of us is basically the data. Data availability in Africa is really sparse, and making a strong decision and decisions regarding integrated water source management requires a huge amount of data and understanding how hydrology and the water availability is changing over time. And have highlighted some of those challenges on this slide, basically that we need to focus on in order to achieve this grand challenge. So IMI, in partnership with the Water, Energy and Food group, what we are trying to do is we are trying to use our in-house models that are already available that can actually address some of these challenges. So on this slide, I'm presenting the Water Accounting Plus framework that IMI has developed and been using to understand water resources in different river basins is one of the solutions. So Water Accounting Plus framework can actually provide you with a basic understanding or the baseline on the hydrology of the river basin, and also provide information on how much of water is available, and also going to be how much of water is going to be available with respect to the future scenarios. And since this Water Accounting Plus framework is built on remote sensing data sets, uses a lot of remote sensing data sets, it can be applied in data scarce regions. And Water Accounting Plus is also an open source program. That means it can be, anyone can access it. The key feature of this model is that it produces a lot of useful data set that can be really used for decision making. And it also aids in integrated water sources management. So now I'm going to jump into one of the page that we have recently completed a project in Mali about scaling small-scale solar irrigation. So the question at hand was these individual small-scale irrigation with the smallholder farmers consume small amount of water, but collectively they can add up to significant water withdrawals. So when it comes to scaling up these kind of small-scale irrigation, there is a need to understand how much of really water is available and how can we scale sustainably. So we use this approach to produce all the baseline information for 2 districts in Mali as a prototype, and then provided information on how much of water, surface water and groundwater is available, how is it changing, and also added some limits on scaling small-scale irrigation. This is one of the outputs or the advisories that we have produced from this model, from this study. Basically, for Segu district, what we are saying is that our model has estimated that around 145,000 hectares of land is available for small-scale irrigation scaling up. Looking at the water availability, surface water is available during the wet season, so we can scale up to 100% of the area. We can grow crops. But when it comes to the dry season, surface water cannot provide the water that is required for crop growth. So we need to invariably tap into groundwater resources. But looking at the groundwater availability, what we recommend is that we can only support crop production or small-scale irrigation, solar-based irrigation in only 80,000 hectares. So instead of all the areas that is feasible, our recommendation was that we should only scale up to 80,000 hectares. So putting these kind of limits on the scaling up is really important for sustainability of the water resources. The second project that I want to highlight is an ongoing project right now with the South Central and South Africa Regional Innovation Hub, where we are trying to look at the same thing, providing the information on water availability, not only for the historical or the baseline information, but also for the climate projections going forward. And then understanding how much of water is required for these innovations, and whether this water coming from surface water as well as groundwater resources is available or not. And we're planning to do this for the Zambezi River Basin in Southern Africa region, and also produce a lot of information that will be readily used by the Regional Innovation Hub managers for making decisions on scaling up of the innovations. This is an outline of the work package. Initially, we'll plan to produce the baseline information on the hydrology and produce all the maps and data sets that are required for understanding the water availability, both surface water and groundwater, for scaling innovations. But we are also planning to produce a user-friendly dashboards that can be readily used through an online platform by the Regional Innovation Hub managers. and looking at and accessing the data on water availability. So in summary, what we feel is that we need data-driven sustainable scaling solutions and then to achieve water security and resilient food systems. And IMI has developed a lot of tools and models that can help in achieving this goal. Thank you. Over to you, Rami.
Thank you, Naga. This is definitely very informative and highly needed. The second showcase will highlight the importance of joining forces and sharing knowledge on solutions towards building climate resilience, resilient food system. Therefore, we is delighted to be part of the leadership group of the Climate Resilient Food System Alliance. Julia Weatherhoff, consultant at the Adaptation Division of the NFCCC, will give us a short glimpse of the Alliance. Julia, please go ahead.
Thanks so much, Remy, and thanks for having me this afternoon. I'm really enjoying the conversation so far and finding it really insightful. So I hope that I can also contribute with my part on the Climate Resilient Food Systems Alliance and how we are really trying to bring forward the water, energy, food nexus approaches as well. So next slide, please. I would just like to give everyone a little bit of an introduction on how the Alliance came into being and our vision and objectives. So I'm sure that this crowd is familiar with the UN Food Systems Summit that took place in 2021. And one of the main outcomes of the summit, together with the national food pathways, was also a multitude of different coalitions which were ensuing from this process. And our alliance is one of those. And the vision is really to focus on some of the most vulnerable environments around the world. So arid and semi-arid lands, small island developing states, landlocked developing countries, least developed countries, and really accelerate climate resiliency in these environments through better integrated climate and food actors. So what we aim to do is really to bring at the same table the big food players and the big climate players and the different stakeholders for these two spheres. Next slide, please. So in the slide that should be coming up now, you will see a little bit of an overview of the composition of the Alliance. And as Rami mentioned, We for Food is actually one of our key leadership group members. So you can see we have both UN and non-UN actors within the Alliance. So of course the RBAs, WFP, FAO, IFAD, and others, but also like the big environment disaster risk reduction agencies and climate agencies as well. So UNFCCC, UNDRR, UNEP, UNCCD, CBD, and others. And within the leadership group, you actually have different private sector reps, different research, academia, civil society. So a variety of expertise and stakeholders. And we also have several countries who have formally endorsed the Alliance as well. And you can see the list at the bottom of this slide. So next slide, please. So here you see a very tangible outcome of the efforts towards creating synergies and partnerships that Remy and others were mentioning before. So what we did is actually we mapped a little bit of the landscape of solutions that we have within the core group of the Alliance, and we created a portfolio of solutions that countries can access and combine and pick and choose from. So it's a little bit of a menu for them, not only countries that request for support, but even prospective donors, right? So what makes most sense in combination sometimes. So you can see it really ranges from climate risk management and DRR to knowledge and capacity building. And when I say what solutions it makes sense to combine and pick and choose and combine and bring together, we have the experience through different country diagnostic exercise that I'll come to in a minute, whereby some solutions per se don't necessarily have the same return on investment than if combined with other solutions. So for example, maybe a population in Ethiopia is not targeted by climate risk insurance and early warning at the same time. Whilst if you give that population that opportunity, you really have a different and a transformative result. Next slide, please. So the next slides, I'm just going to preempt, are a little bit of an articulation because I just wanted to share these slides with the group in terms of our portfolio of solutions. So maybe you can also have access to these slides after this meeting and familiarize yourself with the different solutions as well. In terms of the main work streams of the Alliance, we are building a data and analytics platform. So basically, we're drawing from the different sources of data analytics and models from the core group, but also from the leadership group, to make sure that everyone has that information accessible at their fingertips. Because we know that each organization has a wealth of resources, but sometimes those resources are only accessible to the employees of that organization, right? So we're just trying to bring everything in a one-stop shop there. In terms of partnerships and advocacy, I think we're really trying to push forward this message of bringing together better integrated food and climate action through the nexus approaches, right? As well. So we have a dedicated webpage which we're launching. We have a framework for COP28 and different events, and we're very closely partnering with the Water, Energy for Food program towards positioning ourselves strategically within these fora. And then we have what I was mentioning before, a set of different country case studies, which are basically some countries that we have selected within the Alliance, whereby we just go in country, try to map out the different gaps and challenges to achieving the food resiliency climate resiliency in their food systems. And we analyze a broad set of documents, so the nationally determined contributions, the national adaptation plans, the food pathways, and also any other relevant national strategy. And we really go in and we say, okay, maybe this is where the gap is, and this is how the Alliance can support. So just for ease of reference, the first countries we've covered are Ethiopia, Fiji, Belize, and the Gambia. And I would definitely welcome an exchange of contact within this group if there is anyone interested in these countries specifically. And the next set of countries are going to be Costa Rica, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Lesotho. Next slide, please. So now I really wanted to drill down in terms of why are the water, energy, food nexus approaches so key to us, and in this circumstance as well, we for food especially as a key partner. And I came up, as you will see, with a whole bunch of stats. But being one of the last speakers, I noticed that most of my stats were already referenced by other speakers. So I just don't want this to be an overkill. But as you know, more than 733 million people live in countries with high water stress areas. And of course, agriculture uses 11% of the world's land surface for crop production and accounts for 70% of all water withdrawn. We also have seen that out of the 118 countries that submitted their nationally determined contributions in 2021, 57 countries have prioritized water management for irrigation and reuse. Likewise, 13 have identified the importance of water, energy, and food nexus in their NDCs as well. Next slide, please. So what we've come across, and this is reflected amongst all our different partners that work specifically on water, energy, and food, is that with the smallholder farmers, and we've heard many of the perspectives today resonating with this, they face very specific challenges, right? And I've just tried to summarize some of the key ones in this slide. So, for example, there are very often some low water availability and seasonal variations. There are overlapping demands on shared water resources, and sometimes there is also an issue of withdrawal licensing permits and them being not as available or easy to achieve as they should be. Next slide, please. So, next slide, please. So, what we've come across, and this is reflected amongst all our different partners that work specifically on water, energy, and food, is that with the smallholder farmers, and we've heard many of the perspectives today resonating with this, they face very specific challenges, right? And I've just tried to summarize some of the key ones in this slide. So, for example, there are very often some low water availability and seasonal variations. There are overlapping demands on shared water resources, and sometimes there is also an issue of withdrawal licensing permits and them being not as available or easy to achieve as they should be. Next slide, please. So through the Alliance, we're really trying to promote some of the solutions that can be game changers in these contexts, right? So I just wanted to quote a couple of examples, but happy to discuss this more bilaterally in case anyone is interested in a deeper conversation. One is Nexus Gains, which is actually championed by CDIR, which is another of our leadership group members. And it's basically an approach that provides foresight and modeling to assess the different trades-off and synergies and develop specific innovations and policies targeted to water, energy, and food, whilst being very mindful of the impact on ecosystems and biodiversity. And the other solution that I wanted to mention is the solar power irrigation system toolbox, which is brought forward by the We for Food program, which actually allows farmers to fulfill their needs through water extraction powered by solar panels, but in a very sophisticated way, because I saw that Karen referenced at the beginning of this meeting that sometimes solar pumps can actually lead to over extraction. But through this toolbox, you can actually maximize the benefits whilst minimizing the risk of over extraction. So just in conclusion, I really think that we have in this group a very big potential at our fingertips, and that potential lays in our different capacities, expertise, and global footprint. And I really wanted to thank We for Food for this opportunity and just reinstate that we're very keen to strengthening this partnership and making sure that we can all together accelerate the pace towards transformation and climate resiliency in food systems. Over to you, Rami. Thanks for this space.
Thank you, Julia. It was really great to see how the Alliance will promote solutions such as small-scale solar irrigation, water reuse to achieve climate resilience in agriculture. SPIS is also the topic of our next showcase. Johannes, please, could you tell us more how the new Sun for Water project contributes to the We for Food and the UN Water Action Agenda? The floor is yours.
Thank you, Rami, for giving me the opportunity to showcase the new project Sun for Water, promoting of sustainable solar-based small-scale irrigation systems, and how Sun for Water contributes to the UN Water Action Agenda. So what is Sun for Water? Sun for Water is a €4 million contribution of the German Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, BMZ, to the multi-donor initiative We for Food, and is financed under the German Climate and Technology Initiative, DKTI. The aim of the project is to scale. The aim of the project is to scale approaches for the sustainable use of climate-friendly water and energy-efficient solar-based small-scale irrigation systems. Sun for Water will be implemented in 2 We for Food regional innovation hubs in West and East Africa, specifically targeting the countries Mali, Niger, Togo, Ethiopia, Kenya, and Malawi. Further, the project will act on global level to actively promote the knowledge exchange on solar-powered irrigation across regions and sectors. So, why this project? SPIS is a nexus solution and has been identified by We for Food and partners as a game-changing innovation that promotes climate-resilient food and water systems and smallholder livelihoods. According to the CEF-CERIS 2030 study, small-scale irrigation is a very cost-effective measure and has the potential to lift 140 million people out of hunger and poverty in Africa by increasing the production of high-quality food and supporting climate resilience of smallholder families. But the full benefits, as Julia has mentioned, of SPIS will only be realized if an enabling environment is in place that firstly democratizes the access to the innovation, to finance service and to knowledge, and secondly provides smart incentives for water management on farm and watershed level when SPIS is scaled and used. Therefore, We for Food, Sun for Water has 4 main areas of intervention. Firstly, the project aims to empower SPIS actors, farmers, multipliers, financiers, policy advisors, and private sector actors by institutionalizing knowledge and know-how through demand-driven capacity development activities in the mentioned partner countries and at the global level. Secondly, by providing technical assistance to local actors to further develop SPS technical and financial services and products. Thirdly, providing policy advice through dialogues to create a sustainable environment and provide best practices for policy frameworks for scaling SPS. Lastly, by creating and promoting a global knowledge network where knowledge sharing and creation on SPS is inclusively managed. And also tools such as the SPS toolbox mentioned by Julia will be further developed on the demand of the partners and the SPS actors. Till the end of the program period, which is the end of 2025, Sun for Water intends to promote the inclusive access to SPS as a key enabler to ensure equitable, resilient, and productive rural livelihoods, impacting the resilience and adaptive capacity of smallholders to produce more food with less water and energy resources, impacting SPS service providers to become change agents for climate resilient food systems and to promote the green transformation in Africa, impacting decision makers to build the enabling environment and networks for scaling SPS, and impacting all SPS actors across sectors and scale to build capacities, to share knowledge, and for the further scaling of SPS and for the further scaling or transformation of climate resilient food systems. And with that, over to you, Rami.
Thank you, Johannes. That is very exciting. Now, I think for now we're done with presentation, but we have about 20 minutes for Q&A. We would love to make sure that we open the floor for questions, and we would like to make sure that we allow people to put questions in the chat or raise their hand so that we can give them the floor to ask the question. If you have a particular person that would like to answer a question, please make sure that you highlight that in your question. So I will be checking if there's any questions in the chat. Meanwhile, if there's anyone who has a question, please do raise your hand so we can start the process. Okay, the first question we had is the following. It is from Thomas Kardec, and the question is, the SBTI goals is seeking to reduce by 500 million hectares agricultural land and to meet food demand of 9.8 billion people by 2050. How can they expect this? Is there any funding that is provided for reducing the water footprint in agriculture by 50% if water consumption will outstrip supply by 40% by 2030? I can repeat the question. So the SBTI goals is seeking to reduce by 500 million hectares agriculture land and to meet food demand of 9.8 billion people by 2050. How can they expect this? And is there any funding that is provided for reducing the water footprint in agriculture by 50% if water consumption will outstrip supply by 40% by 2030? Any of the speakers or the experts on the call would like to answer this?
Hi, yes, so it is a very tall task, a tall order, especially based on the IPCC projections that were released the other day with climate variability significantly impacting many areas, including with saltwater intrusion. But what we're seeing is there is a potential for really a good pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, because we've got, between soil moisture sensors, Internet of Things solutions, data-driven decision making for farmers who are using rain-fed agriculture, some data sources that they can use so you can learn to plant at the right times, use the right types of seeds that are more drought resilient, know when to weed a little bit better with technical assistance, and when to harvest. One of the most important things that we're working on that is directly connected, but some people think is tangential, is solar cooling and solar powered cooling and just cold storage in general. Because what we're often seeing is 30 to 50%, depending on the country you're in, of the produce created and generated is lost due to food lost and waste. So just imagine how much water is put into each of those crops that we're wasting. So with an introduction and increased expansion of food loss and waste systems through solar cold storage and solar drying, through more efficient water technologies, through Internet of Things solutions, we do believe it's possible. I was just looking at something out of Singapore where it's all water recycling and hydroponics, but they're able to produce significant tonnage of food every 7 to 9 weeks with that system. So I think both in the rural system for less integrated approaches and that are less technological with better training, as well as more advanced approaches, we'll be able to solve this challenge.
Thank you, Ko. That's definitely exciting to see how all those systems are integrating to work on the water challenges in the coming future. Our next question is by Jusufu. If you'd like to ask your question live, we're happy to hear.
Yes, thank you very much. Jusufu Conte, working for Kosan Worldwide Sierra Leone. And my question is coming from the background of the work that we do. We also work with the poorest of the poor in actually supporting them to improve on their food, to improve on their livelihood. But the small scale solar irrigation technology is one thing that we plan using going forward in our current approach. But one of the challenge and lessons we learned from another project where we did installation of solar light systems in PHUs that are in hard to reach communities is with the issue of sustainability once the installation has been done. Now, the hard to reach communities, we are working with communities that are not exposed to technology and to all of those things. You can work in communities and you can never see somebody that is an electrician there. So you go and set up a system of we set up the solar system, but we all know that such system also goes with continuous maintenance, and sometimes a breakdown happen because of a minor part that will require minor cost. But when you consider the fact that they don't have the expertise in the village to even diagnose that system, to know that is the problem, they have to ask for support from the bigger towns, and you pay a transport for a technician, go and diagnose and find the problem, pay transport, come and buy the part and go and fix it up. By the time you calculate the cost of the transportation alone, that will sometimes even be 300 to 400% of the cost of the item that is being replaced. So the question I wanted to ask: what are some of the ways that we could work around with such an approach coming to small scale solar irrigation in similar settings where we are already having such a challenge with maintenance of solar facilities in those rural communities? Thank you.
Thank you, Yusufu. Anybody would like to answer from the experts?
I can take it up, Rami. Yes, thank you, Yusuf, for the question. So Sun for Water aims to, just has started, but aims to build this enabling environment and aims specifically to train technicians to provide the needed operation and maintenance guidance for smallholder farmers. But what you have really made clear and what we also have learned is how to support the last mile, how to give the access to the farmers, to the sparing parts needed for maintaining the system and lowering the transport costs. And this is still a big challenge. And the only way how we can do it is to work across sectors, establish the enabling environment for the private sector, and ensure that the distance to the markets to access the spare parts, to access the technology, to access the knowledge and the capacities is not long, so that the cost for transport decrease. But yeah, we are happy to further exchange with you and see how we can together contribute to this challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Johannes. I will take a question from the chat. So we have a number of questions in the chat that are linked to energy. So the first one is it's for Sun for Water. Are you making provision for the safe disposal of the solar panels once they have passed their best or have been neglected or discharged? I will add a list of questions. Probably, Johannes, you will answer them because they're linked to the energy component. The second one is how to prevent water overuse when introducing low energy cost technologies such as water irrigation systems, and can we give some practical examples? And the third question is related to human-powered solar pumps. And the question is, why aren't we highlighting this as part of the solutions? Because it seems that there has been a number of human-powered pumps that have been available and are highly affordable, extremely easy and profitable to use and maintain. So why this has not been part of such a discussion?
Thank you, Rami. For the first one on the disposal of PV panels, Sun for Water has in his policy advisory component the clear target to address the whole life cycle of such a system. And therefore, we are currently discussing, for example, in Kenya with the organization CLASP, how to ensure that in countries such as Kenya, the standards for introducing systems, the technical standards and the certificates are established and also integrated in policies, and also how to address the waste management after the lifetime. For now, it's clear that it remains a challenge, and we haven't solved yet the problem, which maybe will occur in 20 years when a system is run out of lifetime. But we are trying with our partners such as CLASP to address this issue and to provide a circular economy approach of dealing with the technology also after the lifetime. Secondly, the second question was on overuse of water. Therefore, as also was highlighted by one of the speakers, Naga, IMI, we are partnering with IMI to look at how we can establish a policy framework on water monitoring and water-wise decision-making. In the same time, how we can use the data which can be obtained from such systems on the groundwater level or on the water extraction to really regulate the water abstraction and prevent water overuse. And there's two-way street. There's one, we need to develop the policies for water management, integrated water management, and at the same time we need to enhance the knowledge or increase the knowledge and the capacities of smallholders, how to use less water and how to use water in a sufficient way so that they don't overexplode the water. And the last question was on handmade pumps, if I remember right, Rami. We for Food actually doesn't promote handmade pumps or man-made powered pumps at the moment. But what we do is also promoting an innovator such as Acquista, who has a system in place that works with gravity, and therefore we are looking at the nexus on SBIS and also on other irrigation techniques. But thank you for this contribution.
Thank you so much, Johannes. We've got another question in the chat, which is related to governance. So I believe Marina could answer this one. Could I hear a bit more about how your approach to governance in your work? Much of this discussion and presentation is about innovation, technical solution, and finance, etc. How do you approach bad policies or governance that undermines good development around agriculture, water, and energy? So, Marina, would you be able to answer us around this question? Maybe Marina is having some technical challenges. I will give the floor to a raised hand for I.M. Stenser. If you would like to ask a question, you're on mute, I.M. If you can unmute yourself, please. Go ahead. Still on mute, it seems.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Inge Mette, and I'm Norwegian, and I've been working on the work as a founder of the World Climate School as a decentralized initiative, and I've been working and living in Zimbabwe, and we have initiated water harvesting initiatives in schools, and with how we can how are you interested in testing and doing pilots with schools and as look at water, food security, kitchen gardens, and to have climate educations integrated in learning about water and energy for the future? That's my question.
Thank you. Perhaps I can address the question of the governance and then
Sure.
go back to the schools.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, what we would try to do, or we work, or how we work in We for Food is to work at different levels of coordination. So on what level we have the global level among the coordinations between the different donors, but we also work at national levels and then at local levels. And with national levels, what we are doing is to work with different regional institutions, for example, for ICRI or Google in East Africa and ICRI in West Africa. And what we are trying to do is to see which are the entry points to be able to support policy development and inhibit bad subsidies, and on the other way around, try to look for good conditions, framework conditions, supporting the development of different strategies to do it. So this is also working at national levels and at regional levels. And this is something that sometimes works and sometimes there are some uncertainties, but our goal is to strengthen this work on the framework conditions to be able to enable more nexus innovations. GIZ also have some good examples of Nexus regional dialogues where different actors come together and discuss about different possibilities. They are also, we also work on policy roundtables for specific innovations, and we were going to strengthen this work a little bit more on the next time and the next year. So I don't know if this is address fully the question, and if not, I would like to perhaps invite some of my other colleagues to complement this.
Thanks, and I'm not sure if the video will work. My Wi-Fi is very bad over here. But the other piece that I would add to that is there's the local space that's really important as well. Local priorities, including funding priorities, can hamper a project, hamper a business. Making sure that audits are done, accounting is done with businesses we've seen has been really important. But most importantly, making sure the people at the base of the pyramid have a voice in the types of innovations that are brought their way, and that companies that are working with them really do have a circular feedback loop, so they can understand, what the issues are that the people at the base of the pyramid are having with the technology or not, and why it works. And so what we often see is some of the companies think that the technology is great in 2 or 3 ways, but there's some other ways, including saving people's time and resources, that the companies often ignore, but the people at the base of the pyramid see. And those are the things that they then go and advocate to their local officials, where we've seen some significant changes. As Marina says, it's hit and miss right now, but because of the initiatives around climate change, around the SDGs, national governments are then relaying that down to regional governments and then local governments, and we're starting to see some movement, but the funding hasn't necessarily followed the policy dialogues. So that's kind of the next step, is why this is a call to action from all of us, for all of you.
Yeah, I also wanted to complement this, what you said. I mean, we were working also on environment and social and government standards for the SMEs. So they will be able also to have a better governance itself within their innovations and their business. And this is very important because we are like building and strengthening capacities on that. And important is to see where are in the policy cycle, also at the local level with the municipalities and with the places where we are working with in the innovations, and trying to work harder on advocacy to be able also to dynamize and improve the framework conditions for the good innovations, and also to dynamize the local economy. Right. And about the schools, I really like that. It's a little bit beyond the scope, to tell you the truth. I mean, we are working, the approach is basically through the work with the small and medium enterprises, and then to the trainings, different trainings and summer schools, also with the end users, to be able to help them to build their capacities, so they will be able on first of all the technological innovations, and secondly also on the access to finance. So this we like trying to look for locally adapted models to be able to get the possibility and access to finance for the innovations. No, we are not working with primary school. This is not beyond the scope of the program, but perhaps we can think about it in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marina. We will take a couple more questions. So I'm going to take one question from the chat, and then we're going to check the people who have their hands raised to see if we can manage some of their questions. So in terms of target group, this initiative correctly focuses on SMEs, which are generally well managed and self-motivated. There are, however, numerous small-scale farmers own cooperatives in, for example, the dairy and tea sectors in sub-Saharan Africa, which could be well-organized target groups that can upscale innovations. Any plans or to specifically target this set of actors in this initiative? Yes, Marina.
Well, we have different sort of SMEs working with us, no? And for example, the SMEs in West Africa, they are more a kind of cooperative and community-based organizations. So what we are trying to do in the whole initiative is to have a very diverse group of SMEs, and this means also like giving the possibility to the ones who are starting and are not like really further developed, but on the other side also to approach the ones who are already further developed to be able to have, for example, more access to finance. So the type of capacity building and capacity development that we do is SMEs or target oriented. And you see the difference between the regions too. For example, in West Africa, this is a totally different sort of support as in the MENA region, no? And we are very, very aware of that. And this is also kind of purpose, because we are looking for the regions and try to adapt the approach to the difference. So we won't leave any behind and give the possibility to the different sites on and sort of SMEs. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Marina. I see Mr. Sahin Bekisoglu, who has a question. So, Sahin, please, the floor is yours.
On that one, Rami, real fast?
Yes, sure, cool.
Sure. So directly to the question, the answer is yes. So most of the sales and marketing strategies of the companies that we're working with have a subsection on working with cooperatives, especially for solar off-grid, solar cooling. That's a specific area of focus for us. One of the other things we've done, including in East Africa, is specifically working with the tea sector to improve energy use and energy sustainability and solar's drying there as well. So yes, reach out to us. Our companies that we work with, our hubs, we are looking for partners in this space. And as we said earlier, it takes all different pieces. So if you've got a place where you're looking to upscale this, reach out to us, make the connection with the hubs, and so that they can connect to the different companies we're working with to hopefully bring you all on board to help us.
Thank you, Ku. That's definitely why the hubs are there to support. So I will go back to Sahin for his question. So would you like to ask your question, Sahin? We cannot hear you. We still cannot hear you, Sahin. Can you try one more time? Doesn't seem that we can hear you, Sahin. One more time. Okay. Well, I will have to because we're just out of time. We're just at the closing moment of this exciting 1.5 hour to discuss the water and energy for food, the initiatives that have been taking place, the amazing support from our international donors focusing on making an impact in the different parts of Africa, Middle East, and Asia. This is one of the many discussions related to improving the agriculture production. This is one of our commitments to the water conference of the UN. And with that, I thank everybody who participated, everybody who've been listening, and the road is still in its beginning, and we look forward to continue the road all together. Thank you very much. Bye and take care.